Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of What's Driving Token Prices. I'm your host, Katie Talati, Director of Research at Arca. For those joining us for the first time, I'm responsible for identifying and analyzing digital asset and blockchain opportunities for Arca's funds. As part of our research, my team and I examine token prices and the market events that act as catalysts for price change. Based on our research and market events over the past week, here are some notable token price moves and what we think drove these moves. As a reminder, this commentary is not intended to be investment advice, investment research, or an investment recommendation. Please consult your investment professional for your own circumstances. Well, guys, welcome back to another exciting week. I know we were off last week for Thanksgiving, but it has been a really wild ride since then. Just today, the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has, made some statements about Bitcoin, including that he thinks it's more similar to gold than to the dollar. We've also gotten Trump's pick on the SEC chair and the CFTC chair, both of which are very pro crypto. So the market is humming along and excited about all these things. Um, but as always, we're going to dive in and talk about some specific tokens this week. So first up, we're going to talk about XRP or Ripple. If you're familiar with Ripple, they've been around for quite a while, since like 2012, one of the kind of OG cryptocurrencies. And they really went on quite a tear this week. So this last week, this was like on Friday, sources reported that Ripple's upcoming stablecoin called RLUSD is expected to be greenlit by the New York Department of Financial Services in the coming months. So, like I mentioned, Ripple has been one of these older crypto projects. They're actually they're really focused on payments, particularly cross-border payments, and their whole thing is then they've been kind of trying to go after the Swift bank, the Swift international banking system for many years. However, recent years they've really gotten bogged down in a lot of regulatory issues. Particularly, they've been in a multi-year lawsuit with the SEC over their issuance of their XRP token, which was sold to investors over many years. So the news of the stablecoin approval has many believing that the new administration will also potentially drop this SEC lawsuit, which has been a big drain on their resources in the past few years. Finally, there was also a filing for an XRP ETF potentially, which could be even, open up the floodgates in terms of assets for the XRP token. So like I said, this news really sent XRP to new highs. And it basically surpassed the market cap of Solana over the weekend, which is really what got everybody's attention. They are now the third largest crypto asset by market cap, behind Bitcoin and Ethereum. XRP is up 59% for the week. Okay, next we're going to talk about Curve. Curve last week, they're the decentralized stablecoin swap protocol, or in-kind swap protocol, which means that if you have assets that are two of the same kind, it allows you to swap them with, no to little slippage and no fee and lower fees. They announced that they're going to be integrating with Elixir, which basically is a DeFi product that allows holders of BlackRock's Buildle fund to swap into other stable assets on Curve. So I'm going to unpack this a little because it was a little complicated and murky to figure out. But the partnership essentially creates a bridge for users who hold tokenized share of the Buildle fund to get into DeFi without having to get out of those funds. They can basically use them as assets to jump into other DeFi assets. So Elixir specifically, they're a blockchain network. They specialize in order book infrastructure, and they have this yield-bearing stablecoin called DEUSD. So holders of Buildle can basically mint the DEUSD stablecoin using their Buildle tokenized fund assets as collateral for that position. And now they can then swap through the DEUSD. They can swap the most liquid venue is on Curve. They can swap DEUSD into other USD equivalent assets and thereby gain access to other markets in DeFi. So I think this is actually really small to start with. I mean, Buildle Fund, by the way, for context, is still about 500 million in AUM. Elixir has done super well on their new stablecoin. It's at 160 million in AUM. But this is just kind of one of these first steps that we want to see as we kind of bring in TradeFi and more of these like real world or RWA assets on chain. It's important that some of these integrations occur so you have these bridges between the old guard and the new guard. Curve's token, though, the CRV token, is up 117% this week on this news. All right. Last up, I'm gonna have to talk about Hyperliquid, if you have not seen or heard about it. So on Friday, Hyperliquid, which is the largest decentralized derivatives exchange by volume, released their Hype token in an airdrop that is worth now at today's prices 1.36 billion, yes, billion with a B, dollars. So Hyperliquid launched in 2023, and they very slowly basically claimed the top spot in the derivative DEX land. They ran a long running points program. They were very careful with combing out anybody who is Sybil attacking the protocol, basically using multiple wallets or bots to kind of farm and create like inorganic activity. And so Hyperliquid has really become a mainstay in the DeFi realm. They've also had a huge focus on providing superior user experience versus a lot of the competitors. They also, launched their own chain, which has kind of allowed them to offer that superior user experience. They allow users to create new markets. So it's not just them deciding when to list markets. It's not like a limited universe of assets. You can trade really long tail assets as well as majors like Bitcoin and ETH. And so they've really, like I said, really gotten this big foothold in the market as a result of this. So the notable thing though about the Hyperliquid launch, which is very cool, is that they didn't actually raise any private VC money. They didn't raise any assets really outside, and they didn't give themselves a giant allocation either. I'll be honest, I look at these airdrop allocations all day, and like generally the split is something like 5 to 10% for the airdrop, maybe 5 to 10% for an additional airdrop, 25 to 30% for like early investors, 20% for the team, and maybe some amount for the foundation. Hyperliquid made it pretty easy. They said we're giving 31% out in the initial airdrop, 38% out in subsequent airdrops. I think the team gets like 10%, and then the rest is split between like the foundation and grants. And it's really small. Actually, even the foundation cut is only something like a couple percentage points. So very different structure as a result, because they didn't have these early VC investors. They didn't list on any major exchanges. They didn't involve market makers and pay them to list the token. And the token has done really well. I will note though, however, you can only trade it on Hyperliquid right now. So it's still done super well. I think that this is, potentially a good model for how airdrops should be done, since it has outperformed since launch. It is up 259% since it was listed on Friday morning. And we'll see if Hyperliquid can hold on to their top spot as the top perpetual DEX out there. Anyway, guys, that's all I had for you this week. I hope you enjoyed our insights. Tune in here again next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific to hear what's driving token